For photosynthesis to occur, we have sunlight that is brought in to the thylakoid of the chloroplast, along with water, and they undergo the light-dependent reactions where ATP and NADH are produced, which are then used in the Calvin cycle, and then we have oxygen as a product of that. And in the Calvin cycle, they use ATP and NADH along with carbon dioxide to ultimately produce sugar, NAD plus, and ADP.
It takes place inside the plant cells known as the chlorophyll. This happens in small regions called the chloroplast. This causes the plants to give off a green pigment known as chlorophyll. In light-dependent reactions, you have photosynthesis occurring in the thylakoid membrane. Photosystems are used in light-dependent reactions. They're basically large compounds of proteins and pigments that are used to optimize and harvest light energy. There's two different types. You have a photosystem 1 and a photosystem 2. These both contain many pigments that are used to collect energy from light and spread along the chlorophyll. In photosystem 1, electrons arrive at and join with the P700 speed-up pairs of chlorophyll in the reaction center. The electron is boosted to high energy and is transferred as the acceptor molecule. In photosystem 2, there are special pairs missing electrons to represent, and these are slid along through the electron transport chain. Energy is passed from pigment to pigment until it reaches the center. Energy is then transferred to P680, boosting electrons to high energy compound. High energy electron is again passed by the acceptor molecule and replaced with an electron from water. This water is then released as the O2 that we breathe. Electron transport chain plays a very important role in the process of photosynthesis. Electrons leave photostream 2 as a small organic molecule. They are then heading towards the cytochrome complex and finally to a copper called plastocycline. Electrons do so by moving through electron transport chain. They are going from an area of high energy to an area of a much lower energy. Some of this energy pumps protons from the stroma to the thylakoid. This happens as protons transfer with the release of more protons from splitting water, which later is used to form ATP. The electron transport chain is a series of molecules that accepts or donates electrons. Hydrogen ions want to get away from each other and repel from one another. So they do so, they escape the cytochrome through ATP synthase. Hydrogen atoms are now moving along the electron transport chain, which allows for protein to get its power, which then creates ATP. Plants are then able to use this and turn it into sunlight using chemical energy.
Calvin cycle, we have a carbon dioxide molecule right here, as well as a 5-carbon molecule called ribulose 1,5-biphosphate. So one carbon atom from the carbon dioxide is going to chemically bind to the ribulose 1,5-biphosphate to ultimately form this 6-carbon molecule. Now the 6-carbon molecule is unstable, so it's going to want to break apart into two 3-carbon molecules called 3-phosphoglycerate. So now they are in a low energy state because they were broken apart, and the 3-carbon molecules, they become activated by ATP down here, which then produces ADP, and are reduced by NADH, which is then transferred to NAD plus here, and this results in 2 molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Now, one of these molecules is going to leave the Calvin cycle as a product of photosynthesis, hence the glucose, and one is going to continue on in the cycle through the regeneration stage here. So this is going to be regenerated into ribulose 1,5-biphosphate with the use of 3 ATP molecules producing ADP as well. We're going to need to do 6 turns of this cycle just to produce the 1 molecule of glucose. So here we're going to have the NADH produced here in the electron transport chain of the light-dependent reaction is utilized in the Calvin cycle right over here to reduce the 3-carbon molecules produced during the reduction stage at this point. NADH becomes NAD plus, and then again the process just repeats itself as it's then used over here and then back over here. Also, ATP is produced over here by ATP synthase, and as a part of the light-dependent reactions, of course, it is used in the Calvin cycle to kind of as an activating agent to undergo the steps of the Calvin cycle. So ATP is used in the Calvin cycle to lose, and it loses a phosphate group, forming those ADP molecules, which are then regenerated to ATP by ATP synthase.